In this video, I'm going to talk about what are vectors, creating vectors in Octave Matlab, indexing elements in vectors, and then wrap up with a summary. What is a row vector? The row vector is a one-dimensional array of elements in horizontal direction or column direction. In this diagram, the row vector name is A, and each element is represented by A subscript j, where j is the index number from 1 to m. The index number should be an integer. To refer to the size of row vector, we can call 1 by m vector. 1 means a single row, and the m represents the column size. To express the row vectors in math, the square brackets are used to enclose the sets of elements with the space between elements. Similarly, a column vector is a one-dimensional array of elements in vertical direction. The indexing is also similar, and A subscript I represents the ith element of the column vector A. The column vector can be written using the square brackets with the vertical element arrangement. The size of the column vector is n by 1 vector. I will show you how to build the following 1 by 5 row vector A. A simple way to build the row vector is to use square brackets, multiple elements, and space in between. In command window, you can type A as a vector or variable name, equal sign, square brackets, and type 3, 5, minus 2, 0, minus 1 with a space in between. If successful, it shows only elements with the variable name A without square brackets below. This approach is straightforward and works best if there are no patterns among the elements. To access to the specific element in given row vector, you can use index within the parentheses. For example, if you need to access third item, minus 2, type A parentheses 3. 3 means index number 3. It shows minus 2 as expected. If you want to access to the last element, you can use A parentheses 5, which is minus 1. What about replacing minus 2 in the index number 3 with numeric number 2? Type A parentheses 3 and 2. Then you can identify the change. You can also add the element at the end. For example, you can add the minus 1 as a sixth element by typing A parentheses 6 equal to minus 1. You can see the result. What if you try to add the element to a much larger index than column size? For example, you try to add minus 2 as a 10th index by skipping elements 7th to 9th. If elements do not exist, Octave Matlab automatically add 0 element. What about accessing to the multiple elements at the same time? For example, you can access to first and fourth elements by typing A parentheses indices 1 and 4 with the brackets. You can see the result. To replace the first and fourth elements with the 6 and minus 3, and you can type A parentheses square bracket 1 and 4 parentheses equal to square bracket with the 6 and minus 3. Then you can see the changes. What about creating a 1 by 5 row vector B having 1 to 5 with the increment of 1? You can still use a square bracket. Alternatively, in case that the elements increase by 1, you can use colon operator. The syntax j colon k generates a row vector having the first element j to k having increment of 1. You can type b equal sign starting number 1 colon followed by n number 5 to create row vector b. You can use the colon operator for indexing. For example, if you want to access to the second to fourth element, you can type b2 colon 4. This approach works best if elements are considered as a series having the increment of 1. The colon operator is very important in Octave Matlab, and we will reuse it for various applications later, so please keep this in mind. What about creating a 1 by 6 row vector C having 0 to 0.5 with the increment of 0.1? You can still use a square brackets. However, since the series has an increment of 0.1 rather than 1, you need to specify it. The secret is to specify the increment between colons. You can type C equal sign from 0 to 0.5 and use 0.1 between columns. What about a 1 by 5 row vector D having 5 to 1? We can consider this series as a 5 to 1 with the increment of -1. You can type D equals sign from 5 to 1 and use -1 as an increment. Sometimes we need to create a row vector having the certain number of elements from the start and end with equal spacing between the elements. For example, we would like to create a row vector between 1 and 5 with equal spacing for the different column size. You can use a built-in function, linspace, which represents linear space. This function requires at least 2 arguments, the first element j and last element k, and a column size m. If you skip m will be 100 as a default, meaning you will generate 1 by 100 row vector. To create a 1 by 3 row vector from 1 to 5 with equal spacing, you can type f equals sign linear space 1, 5, 3. The argument 1 is the starting element, 5 is the ending element, 3 is the column size. The spacing is 2. We can also build a 1 by 5 row vector from 1 to 5 by changing 3 to 9. The spacing is 0.5. This approach works best when you know the start and the end element and desired column size for equal spacing, rather than specific increment between the elements. What about column vector? A simple way to build a column vector is to use square brackets, as you have done for the row vector. However, the difference is to use semicolon as a row separator between elements. For example, I would like to build a 5 by 1 column vector G having the element 3, 5, -2, 0, -1. Type G with a square bracket and element to see given column vector. If successful, you can see the elements in a vertical direction without square brackets. Another way to create a column vector is to transpose a row vector by using single quotation mark at the end of row vector. Here, I will show you how to create a 5 by 1 column vector H for the element 1 through 5. In this vector, the elements increase by 1 from 1 to 5. You can simply create a row vector using column operator. Then you can use a single quotation mark to convert it to the column vector H. So in command window, you can type H 1 through 5 followed by single quotation mark. Alternatively, you can introduce the dummy variable x for the 1 through 5 row vector and then transpose it later. In summary, I talked about what are vectors, creating vectors in Octave Matlab, indexing elements in vectors. Thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe my channel if you haven't done it yet. Thumbs up if you enjoyed. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. See you next time.